The Mandukya Upanishad. Swami Krishnananda, The Divine Life Society, Sivananda Ashram, Rishikesh, India. Publishers Preface. The present publication consists of the lectures delivered extempore by the Swamiji in the year 1968 on the philosophy and teachings of the Mandukya Upanishad. The first section of the discourses expounds the meaning of the great mystical symbol Om or Pranav as a connotation as well as denotation of the Absolute. The second section explains the nature of the universal being, Vaishvanar or Virat, as delineated in the Upanishad. The third section propounds the mystery of dream and sleep, as also the cosmic counterpart of this state, namely Hiranyagarbha, the divine immanent being. The fourth section is an exposition of the profound significance of sleep in the interpretation of the nature of the spirit in man. The fifth section is centered around the great theme, the nature of Ishvara, the supreme God of the universe. The sixth section concerns itself with the majestic character of reality as such, the Absolute as the transcendent presence. The seventh section is the concluding summary, devoted to an explanation of the harmony between the constituents of Om or Pranav and the four states of consciousness, which forms the subject of the Upanishad. Herein, the students of philosophy and spiritual life will find presented the quintessence of the acme of thought and experience reached in ancient times, the Upanishads. Divine Life Society, Shiv Nandanagar, 16th November 1996. Introduction. The theme of the Mandukya Upanishad is an exposition of the mystic syllable Om, with a view to training the mind in meditation, for the purpose of achieving freedom gradually, so that the individual soul is attuned to the ultimate reality. The basis of this meditation is explained in the Vidya known as Vaishvanar Vidya. This is the secret of the knowledge of the universal being, designated as Vaishvanar. Its simple form of understanding is a transference of human attributes to the divine existence, and vice versa. In this meditation, one contemplates the cosmos as one's body, just as, for example, when one contemplates one's individual body, one simultaneously becomes conscious of the right eye, the left eye, the right hand, the left hand, the right leg, the left leg, the head, the heart, the stomach, and all the limbs of the body at one and the same time. And one does not regard the different limbs of the body as distinguished from one another in any manner, all limbs being only apparently different, but really connected to a single personality. So, in this meditation, the consciousness is to be transferred to the universal being. Instead of one contemplating oneself as the individual body, one contemplates oneself as the universal body. Instead of the right eye, there is the sun. Instead of the left eye, there is the moon. Instead of the feet, there is the earth. Instead of the head, there is the heaven, and so on. The limbs of the cosmic person are identified with cosmic elements, and vice versa, so that there is nothing in the cosmos which does not form an organic part of the body of the Virat, or Vaishvanar. When you see the vast world before you, you behold a part of your own body. When you look at the sun, you behold your own eye. When you look above into the heavens, you are seeing your own head. When you see all people moving about, you behold the various parts of your own personality. The vast wind is your breath. All your actions are cosmic movements. Anything that moves does so on account of your movement. Your breath is the cosmic vital force. Your intelligence is the cosmic intelligence. Your existence is cosmic existence. Your happiness is cosmic bliss. Though the Mandukya Upanishad gives certain symbolic instances of identification of limbs with the cosmic body, the meditator, in fact, can choose any symbol or symbols for such form of identification. The creation does not consist merely of the few parts that are mentioned in the Upanishad. There are many other things which may come to our minds when we contemplate. So, we can start our meditation with any set of forms that may occur to our minds. We may be sitting in our rooms, and the first things that attract our attention may be the objects spread out in the rooms. When we identify these objects with our body, we find that there are also objects outside there in the rooms. And likewise, we can slowly expand our consciousness to the whole earth, and then beyond the earth to the solar and stellar regions, so that we reach as far as our minds can reach. Whatever our mind can think becomes an object for the mind, and that object again should become a part of the meditator's body cosmically. And the moment the object that is conceived by the mind is identified with the cosmic mind, the object ceases to agitate the mind any more, because the object is not any more outside, it becomes a part of the body of the meditator. When an object becomes a part of our own body, it no more annoys us, because it is not an object at all. It is a subject. The object has become the cosmic subject in the Vaishvanara meditation. The Vidya has its origin actually in the Rig Veda, in a famous sukta or hymn called the Purush Sukta. The Purush Sukta of the Rig Veda commences by saying that all the heads, all the eyes, and all the feet that we see in this world are the heads, eyes, and feet of the Virat Purush, or cosmic being. With one head, the Virat nods in silence. With another face, he smiles, and a third one, he frowns. In one form, he sits. In another form, he moves. In one form, he is near. In another form, he is distant. See, all the forms, whatever they may be, and all the movements and actions, processes and relations become parts of the cosmic body, with which the consciousness should be identified simultaneously. When you think all things at the same time, in all the 10 directions, nay, in every way. The Mandukya Upanishad concludes this Vidya by saying that one who meditates in this manner on the universal personality of oneself as the Vaishvanara becomes the source of sustenance for all beings. Just as children sit around their mother, hungry and asking for food, all beings in creation shall sit around the person, craving for his blessings. And just as food consumed by the body sustains all the limbs of the body at once, this meditator, if he consumes food, shall immediately communicate his blessings to the whole cosmos, for his being is verily all being. We may recall to our memory the famous story of Sri Krishna taking a particle of food from the hands of Draupadi in the Kamyaka forest, when she called to him for help. And with this little grain that he partook of, the whole universe was filled, and all people were satisfied, because Krishna stood there, tuned up with the universal Virat. So is also the case with any person who is in a position to meditate on the Virat and assume the position of the Virat. The whole universe shall become friendly with this person. All existence shall ask for sustenance and blessing from this universal being. This meditator is no more a human being. He is veritably God himself. The meditator on Vaishvanar is himself Vaishvanar, the supreme Virat. Invocation and Verses. Om, shining ones, may we hear through our ears what is auspicious, yea, fit to be worshipped. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we, endowed with body strong with limbs, offering praise, complete the full span of life bestowed upon us by the divine beings. May Indra, of enhanced fame, be auspicious unto us. May Pushan, who is all-knowing, be auspicious unto us. May Tarksha, who is the destroyer of all evils, be auspicious unto us. May Brihaspati bestow upon us auspiciousness. Om, peace, peace, peace. Verses. 1. Om. This imperishable word is the whole of this visible universe. Its explanation is as follows. What has become, what is becoming, what will become. Verily, all of this is Om. And what is beyond these three states of the world of time, that too, verily, is Om. 2. All this verily is Brahman. The self is Brahman. This self has 4 quarters. 3. The first quarter is Vaishvanar. Its field is the waking state. Its consciousness is outward turned. It is 7-limbed and 19-mouthed. It enjoys gross objects. 4. The second quarter is Tejas. Its field is the dream state. Its consciousness is inward turned. It is 7-limbed and 19-mouthed. It enjoys subtle objects. 5. The third quarter is Prajna. May one asleep neither desires anything nor beholds any dream. That is deep sleep. In this field of dreamless sleep, one becomes undivided, an undifferentiated mass of consciousness, consisting of bliss and feeding on bliss. His mouth is consciousness. 6. This is the Lord of all, the omniscient, the indwelling controller, the source of all. This is the beginning and the end of all beings. 7. That is known as the fourth quarter, neither inward turned nor outward turned consciousness, nor the two together, nor an indifferentiated mass of consciousness, neither knowing nor unknowing, invisible, ineffable, intangible, devoid of characteristics, inconceivable, indefinable, its sole essence being the consciousness of its own self, the coming to rest of all relative existence, utterly quiet, peaceful, blissful, without a second. This is the Atman, the Self. This is to be realized. 8. This identical Atman or Self is the realm of sound, is the syllable of Om. The above described 4 quarters of the Self being identical with the components of the syllable, and the components of the syllable being identical with the 4 quarters of the Self. The components of the syllable are A, U, Ma. 9. Vaishvanar, whose field is the waking state, is the first sound, A, because this encompasses all and because it is the first. He who knows thus encompasses all desirable objects, he becomes the first. 10. Tejas, whose field is the dream state, is the second sound. O, because this is an excellence and contains the qualities of the other two. He who knows thus exalts the flow of knowledge and becomes equalized. In his family there will be born no one ignorant of Brahman. 11. Prajna, whose field is deep sleep, is the third sound Ma, because this is the measure and that into which all enters. He who knows thus measures all and becomes all. 12. The fourth is soundless, unutterable, a quieting down of all relative manifestations, blissful, peaceful, non-dual. Thus, Om is the Atman, verily. He who knows thus merges his self in the self, yea, he who knows thus. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. The Pranav or Omkar. The Vedas in their form as the Samhitas constitute an introduction to the subject dealt with in the Vedanta or the Upanishads. The Upanishads are secret teachings containing wisdom beyond the realm of the earth and revealing proclamations of the great sages of yore on the nature of reality. Among the Upanishads, the Mandukya may be regarded as the most important, and it is aptly said, Mandukyam ekam eva alam mumukshanam vimuktye. For the liberation of the mumukshu or seeker, the Mandukya alone is enough. And if you are able to understand the true meaning of this single Upanishad, there may not be a necessity to study any other Upanishad, not even the Chandogya or the Brihadaranyaka, because the theme of the Mandukya Upanishad is a direct approach to the depths of human nature. It does not give analogies, tell stories, or make comparisons. It states bare facts in respect of man in general, and reality in its essential character. A very comprehensive Upanishad is this, containing only 12 statements called mantras, in which the whole wisdom or knowledge of the Upanishads is packed into a nutshell. The Upanishad commences with a prayer. All Upanishads start with a prayer. Pray to the guardians of the quarters, the deities or the manifestations of God who rule the whole of creation, that we be blessed with health and understanding in order to go into the secrets of the Upanishads, to meditate upon them and to realize the truth proclaimed in them. The Mandukya Upanishad is attributed to the revelation of a great sage called Manduk. That which pertains to Manduk is Mandukya. The Upanishad or the secret teaching revealed to the sage Mandukya is the Mandukya Upanishad. It commences with a solemn declaration. The imperishable is Om, and it is all this. Everything else, whatever be of the past, present, or future, is like an exposition, explanation, or commentary on the meaning of this great truth, the imperishable Om. Sarvam Omkara eva. Everything is Om, indeed. This is how the Upanishad begins. Om ityata daksharam idam sarvam. All this, whatever is visible, whatever is cognizable, whatever can come within the purview of sense perception, inference, or verbal testimony, whatever can be comprehended under the single term creation. All this is Om. We have been reciting Om many a time, and it is a custom with most of us to greet one another with Om, to recite anything with Om, and start jap of any mantra with the chanting of Om. The implication is that Om comprehends all things, and it makes also a very auspicious beginning to everything. Om and At are supposed to be two auspicious terms. Om, At, Om, At, Om, At, Om. Do we recite daily? In the beginning, Om is supposed to have been the first vibratory sound that emanated as the seed of creation. Om is Pranav. It is a Bija mantra for all the other mantras, whether Vedika or Tantrika. In the recitation of Om, we comprehend not merely all meaning but also all language. All verbal implication as well as objective reference is included in Om. Om is both Naam and Roop, name as well as form. It is not merely a sound, though it is also a sound. And a very important aspect of Om that you have to bear in mind is that Om is not merely a chant or recitation, a word or a part of human language, but it is something more than all this. It is something which exists by its own right, something which is usually called Vastu Tantra, as distinguished from Purusha Tantra, that which exists not because it has a reference to anything else, but because it is something by itself. We do not create Om by a chanting of it, but we only produce a vibration sympathetic with the vibration that is already there by its own right and which is called Om. Om is a cosmic vibration. It is not a chant made by us, created by us, or initiated by us. Why do we chant Om? To establish a connection between ourselves and that which exists by its own right and which manifests itself as a sound vibration in the form of Om. The Supreme Absolute is the Rupa form of Om, which is the Naam, name. As everything in the world is designated by a name, we designated Ishwar, God, also by a name. As we summon into our consciousness a form by calling out its name, remembering its name, so also we summon into our consciousness the being or the form of Ishwar, God, by summoning his name. And just as the name of a particular object is connected with that object by description of the character of that object, Om also, as the name of Ishwar, describes Ishwar, and by this unique description of it, it enables us to contemplate the form of Ishwar. A mountain is a name, a river is a name, fire is a name, man is a name, woman is a name, Ram is a name, Krishna is a name, and so on. We have many names, Nama. These names correspond to particular forms which they connote and also denote. When you utter a name, the form corresponding to that name comes to your mind automatically, spontaneously, as it were, because of a permanent connection that has been established between the particular name and its corresponding form. How much we are influenced by a name, every one of you knows very well. If you are called by a particular name, you may be pleased or displeased. There are names by which you may be called, which may annoy you, may put you out of your balance, because of the reason that you have created a permanent association in your mind between a particular name and its corresponding roop. For example, if you are addressed as Maharaj, you are pleased, but if you are addressed as an ass, you are displeased. The reason is the association that you have established in your mind and feeling between the name Maharaj and its corresponding significance, or the name As and its corresponding significance? Names create vibrations within us. Suppose one of you suddenly cries out, "Snake, snake," just now. You will all get up suddenly and listen to nothing that I say. What sort of vibration it creates in your mind? The word snake? You have established a contact in your psychological being between the name snake and its corresponding meaning or significance, and its connection with you. What it means, you know very well. Every name in the world has a form and a meaning attached to it. Every form is not merely a counterpart of the name with which it is connected, but it has a relation with other forms as well. Now, we come from what we call Ishwar Shrishti to Jiva Shrishti. Ishwar Shrishti is the form corresponding to a name as it is by its own right. Jiva Shrishti is the psychological connection that you have established between yourself and the corresponding form of a particular name. You are affected because of the Jiva Shrishti, and your understanding of the form corresponding to a name signifies merely Jiva Shrishti. We are now concerned not merely with the Ishwar Shrishti, but also Jiva Shrishti. Perhaps with the latter we are more concerned than with the former, because what binds us or liberates us is the nature of Jiva Shrishti, not so much the nature of Ishwar Shrishti. Things as they are do not concern us very much, but things as they are to us mean very much to us. And this meaning it is that binds us to what we call samsara, earthly existence. Every name has a corresponding form, and the form is the content of Ishwar Shrishti, the creation of Ishwar, God, and you as a jiva or an individual, though you are also a part of Ishwar Shrishti. Create a cocoon round yourself, call yourself in a web that has been created by your own imagination, and this imagination connects you with the other jivas, other things, other contents of creation socially. You do not merely exist as a content of creation, you also have a connection with other contents in creation in several ways. This is the difference between you as a part of Ishwar Shrishti and you as a center of Jiva Shrishti. You have an aspect of Ishwar in you, and you also have a Jivatva in you. The aspect of Ishwar is your dignified nature, and the aspect of Jiva in you is what binds you to this realm of samsara. So you have a twofold nature, a double personality, a character that distinguishes you by means of your relation to Ishwar and your relation to this earthly life. This is the situation we find ourselves in through Nam and Roop, name and form, the designator and the designated, in this creation of which we are parts or contents. Now, it is the summoning of the forms into relation with ourselves that has been the cause of our pleasures and pains. Every day we summon into our consciousness different forms of the world, and this summoning is nothing but a psychological contact that we establish between ourselves and these forms. This is samsara. Every relationship, external, is samsara, and the whole life of ours throughout the days and nights that we pass, all this is samsara, from which we seek liberation or freedom. We want moksha from samsara, and moksha is the status in which we establish ourselves not in a relation of jivatva, but in the condition of Ishwar. That is, existence by its own right and not existence by means of a relation to other things. You are something by yourself, independent of what you mean to others. what you may appear to others, or what others may appear to you. You want to transfer your existence from Jivatva to Ishvaratva. You want to exist by your own right, in your own essential nature, to be independent rather than dependent on things. You do not want to think objects for your subsistence. You want to be absolutely independent as a Keval. You want to attain Kaivalya. This is called moksha, absolute freedom. This Upanishad, the Mandukya, suggests a very simple method for the establishment of Jiva in Ishvara, to transfer the relation of the personality to the non-relation of Ishvara, and to achieve this by a direct method of invoking the presence of Ishvara, or Brahman, into our being, summoning Ishvara into our consciousness. Give Ishvara a place in your heart. Instead of thinking of an object corresponding to a particular name, think of Ishvara who is designated by a comprehensive name. All the names of the world, like mountain, river, etc., are particular names corresponding to particular forms. But Ishvara is not a particular form. He is a universal form, and therefore you cannot call him or summon him by a particular name. You have to call him by a universal name, because he is universal form. No particularized language can describe Ishvara, because Ishvara is not a particularized object. He is not a man or a woman or a human being. He is not here or there. He is everywhere. That which is everywhere cannot be designated by a language that belongs only to a particular country or man or a woman or a particular person. You require a very comprehensive language to describe the comprehensive form of Ishvara. There is no comprehensive language. All languages are local. You have many languages, and there is no single language that can be applied to the whole world. And even if there be a language that can be valid for the whole world, even that is a local language from the point of view of the vaster cosmos. Is there a language that can be valid for the whole universe? That language alone can describe Ishvara, because he is universal. There is no such language. The only language conceivable, revealed to the ancient rishis, is Om or Pranav. The recitation of Om is the speaking of a universal language, a language which comprehends within itself all other languages, and the vocal organ in the recitation of Om or Pranav vibrates also in a very comprehensive manner. When you utter A, B, C, etc., a particular form of the vocal system begins to vibrate. But when you recite Om, the entire sound box begins to vibrate. This is a matter for experiment. Any one of you can experiment with it and observe the result. The whole sound box begins to function, not merely a part of the sound box. And all the languages are supposed to be contained in Om, because of the fact that in the recitation of Om, every part of the vocal organ begins to vibrate. And naturally, every word, every phrase should be somehow included in the root sound that is created when Om is chanted. Not merely this, the recitation of Om has another significance or meaning. The chanting or the calling out of a particular name produces a vibration in you. You have a feeling generated within you by the recitation or calling out of a name. Rasgulla, laddu, kheer, coffee, tea, rice. These are certain names of certain objects, and you know that when you utter these names, different ideas occur to you and you have different sensations in your body. Scorpion, a different sensation. Disease, ugliness, earthquake, atom bomb, war, all these ideas produce vibrations in your system. They are not merely words. They are vibrations that are conveyed to your system by a particular word or phrase. And Om is also a vibration, not merely a sound or a word. Om is a vibration, a universal vibration with which creation commenced, as they say. The Manusmriti, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, and the Upanishads describe the nature, the constitution, the structure, and the glory of Om. With Om, Brahma created this cosmos, and from Om constituted of the three isolated letters, A, Om, Ma, the Vyahritis came forth, Bhuh, Bhuvah, Swaha. From these three Vyahritis, the three padas of the Gayatri mantra emanated. From the three padsas of the Gayatri mantra, the meaning of the three sections of the Purush Sukta emerged. And from the meaning of the Purush Sukta, the meaning of the entire Vedas emanated. And from this vast meaning of the Vedas, Brahma created this cosmos, say the scriptures. So important is Om, not a chant uttered by Brahma, but a vibration that rose from the Supreme Being in the initial stage of creation, a comprehensive vibration. And when we chant Om, we also try to create within ourselves a sympathetic vibration, a vibration which has a harmony, a sympathy with the cosmic vibration, so that, for the time being, we are in tune with the cosmos. We flow with the current of the cosmos when we recite Om and produce a harmonious vibration in our bodily and psychological system. Instead of tearing ourselves away from the world within, we flow into the current of the world. Instead of thinking independently as jivas, we start thinking universally as Ishwar. Instead of thinking in relation to objects segregated from one another, we think in terms of nothing at all. There is thought thinking itself, as it were. Can you imagine thought thinking itself? This is Ishwar's thought. When a thought thinks of an object, it is Jiva's thought. When the thought thinks only itself, it is Ishwar's thought, Ishwar's will. And when we recite Om properly, with an understanding of its real connotation, we think nothing in particular. We think all things in general. This is Ishwar thinking. We do not think at that time. It is Ishwar who thinks through these individual minds of ours. We, as persons, cease to be for the time being. We exist as a thing in itself, Ishwar, who exists by his own stature, mind and status. He does not exist as a jiva in terms of other objects. We always exist in relation to something else. Ishwar exists with relation to nobody else. And we, as seekers of the status of Ishwar or Brahman, wishing to exist by a universal nature, try, by this means of the recitation of Om, to flow into Ishwar's being like rivers trying to flow into the bosom of the ocean. We are like streams, wanting to rush into the sea, and just as by the force of the inclination of the waters, the rivers enter the ocean, we, by the inclination of the vibration of Om, enter the universal form of Ishwar. When you recite Om properly, you enter into a meditative mood. You're not merely reciting a sound or a word or a phrase. You're creating a vibration. To point out once again, you are creating a vibration. What sort of vibration? Not a vibration which agitates you, irritates you, or creates a desire in your mind for a particular object, but a vibration which melts all other particular vibrations, puts an end to all desire, extinguishes all cravings, creates a desire for the universal. As fire burns straw, this desire for the universal burns up all other desires. A recitation of Om, even 3 times, correctly done, is enough to burn up all sins, to put a cessation to all desire and make you calm, quiet, and satisfied within yourself. The test of a correct recitation of or chant of Om is that you become calm in your mind and feel satisfied with what you are and what you have. When you come out of your meditative mood with the desire persisting, it would only point out that your contemplation has not been perfect. The desire for things was lurking within while you were in a mood of contemplation. Even the chant of Om was not properly done. The chant of Om should go together with the thought of the universal. It is a jap and a dhyana combined. While other japs may lead you to a mood of dhyana or meditation, while other mantras may lead to dhyana, the japa of Om suddenly becomes dhyana when it is properly done. Here, jap and dhyana combine, and Nam and Roop are brought together. Here, you do not have a distinction between the designator and the designated, because the name, Nam, which is Om, being universal, merges with the form, the Roop, which is also universal. They cannot be 2 universals. They can only be one universal. So the designator and the designated in the case of Om become one. Jap and Dhyan mean the same thing in the case of the chanting of Om. It is a sudden entering into a realm which the individual mind cannot understand. A rapture of ecstasy may take possession of you if you chant Om. Thus, Omityata daksharamidam sarvam. Om is verily everything. Om is imperishable. All name in this world is perishable, for it goes with the corresponding form. But this universal form is imperishable. This universal name also is imperishable, comprehensive, everything. Umityata daksharam. Om is Akshar, and Akshar is imperishable. Tasya bhavyakyanam bhutam bhavat bhavishyaditi sarvam omkara eva yachanyat trikalatitam tadapyomkara eva. All that was in the past, all that is now in the present, all that will be in the future, all this is Om. Because Om has no past, present and future. The universal has no time. What a grand description of Om is given in the Mandukya Upanishad. Whatever is in time, as past, present and future, is Om. Not merely this, that which is above time also is Om. Om has a twofold nature, the temporal and the eternal. It is Sabd and Sabdatit. It is constituted of O, Ma, representing all creation. But it has also a fourth nature which transcends these distinctions of O, Ma. It is called Amatra and Chaturtha Bhava. The soundless form of Om is Amatra, the immeasurable, and it is not audible to the ears. This Amatra, or the immeasurable, eternal nature of Om, is not a sound or even a mere vibration, but it is just existence, pure and simple, known as Sat Chidananda Swarupa, existence, consciousness, bliss. That which is past, present and future is the temporal comprehension of the gamut of Om, and that which transcends time is the eternal nature of Om. To give the analogy of the river and the ocean, the river is the temporal form, the ocean is the permanent form. There is a name and a form for the river, but there is no such name and form of the river in the ocean, as all rivers become one in the ocean. In the temporal form, Om may be said to designate all that is existent in creation. In its eternal form, it cannot be said to constitute any kind of particular form, but it is formless, durationless, and spaceless. Om, therefore, is name and form and the formless, vibration and consciousness, creation and Sat Chitanand. All this is Om. How to chant Om? This doubt may arise in your mind. We have tried to understand something about the magnificence of Om, but how are we to recite Om? Are we to think anything when we recite Om? The usual procedure prescribed is that the recitation of Om should neither be too short nor too long. There is a short, middling, and elongated pronunciation, no doubt. But for all practical purposes of meditation, I would suggest that you may take to the middling duration of the recitation of Om. There is what is called a matra, or a measure, and you may regard one matra as the time taken by the fist of the hand to go round your knee in leisure, neither too fast nor too slow, and to snap the fingers. Take your hand once round your knee. This is the time taken for the measure called one matra. Bring the hand round your knee once and make a snap of your fingers. How much time have you taken? This is one matra. Bring it twice. These are 2 matras. Bring it thrice. These are 3 matras. Now, when it is once, it is a short matra. When it is twice, it is a middling matra. When it is thrice, it is the elongated matra. You may choose whichever matra is convenient to you. There is no compulsion as to the measure. Whichever is convenient, practicable, and agreeable to your temperament and capacity may be chosen by you as a required matra for the recitation of Om. What have you to think when you recite Om? You are the ocean, and all the rivers of objects enter you. Remember the slok of the Gita? Apuryamanam, Achala Pratishtham, etc. You are the ocean into which all rivers of objects rush. There are, then, no rivers, no objects. You are the ocean. Imagine your feeling at the time, a feeling that I cannot describe. Each one of you should feel it for himself or herself. Chant Om and entertain this feeling in your mind for even 5 minutes continuously, and record your experience in your diary, and tell me whether it has made any difference to you or not. Definitely, it will make a difference. And if God blesses you with the time and patience necessary to do this practice for even half an hour daily, you should regard yourself as a thrice blessed seeker. The world enters you. And where is the world then to agitate you? Samsara is a network of agitations, and all these are like currents of rivers rushing into your universal being. You have swallowed them up in the bosom of universality, and the roar of the river ceases when it enters the calmness of the ocean. The vexations of the world cease when they enter the solemn existence of your universality. This is Ishwaratva for the time being. This is the gateway for the Shakshatkar realization of Ishwar. And if for even half an hour daily you are in a position to continue this chant and meditation, who knows, The bubble may burst one day. The bubble of Jivatva may open up into the ocean of Ishvaratva. Be prepared for this glorious achievement. And who can describe your majesty at that time? You will start shedding tears even by thinking of this condition. Tears will flow from your eyes. The body will tremble because it will not be prepared for this experience. There will be Angamejyatva, as Patanjali describes, a tremor of the body. The river is beholding the ocean. Oh, how big! How am I to go there? I have been a small channel up to this time. Now I am entering into something which does not seem to have a limit at all from any side. Terror may take possession of you. Hair may stand on end. And you may experience a thrill, as if an electric shock is being administered to you. These are the experiences you may have, commonly speaking. I do not mean that the same experience will come to every person, but generally speaking, with some differentiation in detail, this experience will come to everyone. And if, by God's grace, the prarabdha is coming to an end, you may realize Him today. And if you enter into this bhav or mood of dhyan with a hopeful chant of Om, even hunger may be appeased, thirst can be quenched, and a weird strength will enter your body. You may have a feeling that you can even lift a mountain. You may not be able to do it actually, but you will have an inspiration and a sensation. Such strength may enter into your being, and if sakshatkar comes, if there is real realization, you may even do this feat. How did Lord Sri Krishna lift a mountain? We cannot do it because we are jivas, but Ishwar can do it. And it is not the jiva that acquires the siddhi or the power of working such exploits. The jiva is no more there. It is not you as a siddha or a yogin that do these marvels. It is Ishwar who does these through these instruments of His. Just as when you lift a small stone with your hand, it is not the hand that lifts it. It is you that lift it. So also, when a yogin does a marvel, it is Ishwar who does it, which to the other jivas may appear as a marvel because they cannot do it. For an ant, the man lifting a stone would be a marvel. We are all giants to the ant, and likewise to us, jivas, the Siddha Purushas are wonder workers. It is the divine power that glories in all the Siddhas. Just as the equalized bodily power works through a particular hand and raises a weight, for example, the harmonized universal power, which is Ishwar's Shakti, works a miracle through a Siddha Purush or a Jivan Mukt, which any one of us can be, maybe, any day. If we become instruments in the hands of Ishwar, that would be our blessedness. And when we become real instruments in the hands of the universal power, we become God-realized souls. We become divinities walking on this earth. We become tirthas, or holy waters, ourselves. And this is moksha from samsara, liberation from bondage, which is attained by a simple method, according to the Mandukya Upanishad. A correct recitation of Om or Pranav, with contemplation on its universal form, which is Ishwar or Brahman.